Hi there, I'm Chakra. I am openly queer, and today I am doing a makeup get ready with me while I do a story time about how I got into makeup, a little bit story of my queer identity and gender expression, and how that takes form today. I started makeup pretty early, I'd say, but I think the truth of the matter is that makeup, the tool that women also use, men have also the right to use it as well. I remember late nights being in my room, and it was like, what, 12 a.m., right when my parents' brothers were already asleep. I would just be up, putting on my little makeup, just feeling the fantasy. And I think that's what I was really drawn to. Makeup kind of brought that confidence for me in a way that, like, while I wasn't secure with my own self at the time, I was able to use these tools around me, these very accessible tools. A lot of what that I'm thinking of relates to a lot of what Judith Butler talks about in her performance of gender studies and gender identity, in the way that, like, whatever you do, whether I'm putting on makeup as a man or not putting on makeup, that's a choice of gender identity and gender construction. So either way, I'm making a choice. So why not make a choice that makes me still feel genuine to who I am? Yeah. And what about that? When I started doing makeup, there was definitely a lot of shame that I carried with doing it. And I think the fact that I made it that, like, I had to hide it from my family, had to hide it from people around me that I'm doing, I think that inherent internal shame that I had really shifted the mentality of, like, what I really saw and kind of perceived of this beauty. When I first started dancing, I was very shy and timid about myself. I didn't have a lot of confidence. In a way, when I started moving my body and found easier to say with my body because of using words, I didn't even realize how much power movement could say. I remember these feelings when I was growing up, like in high school, and saying to myself, like, dance is the one place that I felt safe, like home. I think home is so important to me. I think home as a concept, home as a mean of, like, chosen family. I think in queer communities, having a home is so sacred. When I think about, again, this idea of the body, I think a lot of what Jeanette Winterson in her book Written on the Body has to say. There's so much we can read into as a society into just how people relate and talk to one another. All cultures around the world, not just here in the US, but movement as a contextual cultural piece in many places. Words literally being written on the body. And as a Cambodian, and having these dance rituals kind of inscribed into our bodies as we perform, right? Because it's about to get serious. So I'm gonna talk about the essence of what it really means for me to be queer and a person of color. And I think even more so geographically in a place like Carlisle, Pennsylvania, because let me tell you, I was in it for a ride when I first came to Dickinson, and I didn't really realize kind of the extent of what I was really walking into, especially as a young buck 17-year-old. I noticed that there was an Army War College, and automatically I think my perceptions of military, that super hyper masculine kind of byproduct of that, and then juxtaposing that with my own queerness and what I look like as a brown queer body, I was like, I don't know if this is the right place for me. I think in many notions, my fears that I had, looking back, are just displaced fears of maybe some underlying notions of kind of heteropatriarchy that I'm letting impose on my. And there's a real fear, for sure, when I think about the lack of queer spaces and queer representation. When we think of banned books and kind of the crucial laws that have enacted in the legislation of queer bodies and how we can choose to live. Also, this is not a foundation match. Until I went abroad to Denmark and Italy, Europe in general, to experience like what gender expression, gender identity, queer identity openly looks like, how it looks like being accepted authentically. And I was very lucky to have arrived at the peak of Pride. I think just like being amidst all the bustle of it, seeing the remnants of all that had happened kind of during that time, seeing the legislation, kind of how they view the nude, how they view gay marriage. They were one of the first countries to kind of legalize it as well. It made me appreciate kind of what the aspirations of an American context of queerness and how that can look like more on a larger scale. I think often when we think and perceive men in makeup, for me, I remember before, I used to be like almost disgusted, maybe not disgusted, but like appalled or startled this positioning of men just having to be so masculine and having to be so robustly hetero. Makeup is now not just like a tool used for beauty, but it's a tool of strength and power. I think of how much in the world, how much for me makeup has kind of shifted how I can even use it to empower myself. And I used it for the stage, going amen, this ability to transform yourself into anything you want, a beautiful god, a creature, and whatnot. That kind of versatility and tool that makeup can bring for you was really kind of so inviting to me. Kind of went for a deep sultry look today, emphasizing on the purple for royalty. I have a pearlescent galactic color. Let me just go in with the actual brush because it's not giving me the payoff that I want. Honestly, it wasn't really until like high school that I got to be really bold about learning makeup and appreciating it for an artistry rather than just like an adornment of identity. But just pulling out some lashes. The more that I think about what it means to be a man, I think it boils down to gender is so much more than just what you have biologically. And that's crazy. Oh, these lashes look absolutely crazy, but I'm gonna live the fantasy, I feel. The more that we kind of are believing the fact that makeup has a gender or that clothes have a gender, it is supporting a patriarchal view of this construction of gender in the first place. If we are living in a free market capitalist society, who cares if I'm buying makeup, if I'm buying a bralette because I want to wear it? Like, point in place is that I'm giving you the money. Let me be queer if I want to. I'm gonna top this look with this nice little glossy pink nude. I added a little bit of blush earlier, but I think there's always more room for blush. Last spritz. So this is the final look. Thank you for watching, and